To quote my friend Flynn Rider, "You should know this is the strangest thing I've ever seen." Well, stop motion guru Phil Tippit has had an illustrious career working on other people's films. But now he's bringing his deranged vision, Mad God, to Shudder. And that's a stop motion / live action visceral dream come true. But is it worth watching? Mad God follows the assassin through a forbidding world of tortured souls, decrepit bunkers, and wretched monstrosities forged from the most primordial horrors of the subconscious mind. So this is 83 minutes of fever dream madness. There's no actual dialogue, but there are grunts and whines and gag-inducing sound effects as we traverse through this waking nightmare of a scenario. The assassin is an unknown to us. We watch this guy in a gas mask, helmet, and goggles descend through different levels of some structure. Now, is it the bowels of the earth? Maybe it's layers of civilizations long obliterated where new has just been built upon old. The assassin is searching for something, stopping every so often to check his map that is continuously disintegrating. Now, along the way, he observes all kinds of nightmarish ghoulery. There are beasts with humanish eyes that just hop around and gobble up other beings. There's these creatures that seem to be like drones, cast by the hundreds, just sent off to do all kinds of menial tasks. And as important as they may be for their function, they're utterly disposable. And the attention to detail in all of these creatures, I think, is astounding. There are those that look to be made entirely out of hair, some that look like slugs with humanoid heads and then monstrous teeth, and others resemble ogres ready for battle with helmets or armor. Now, every bit of this world is decay, like a junkyard multiplied by 1,000, neglected for a century, and then shaken up and poured out on top of a dying society. A lot of the presentation is dark, with minimal lighting to expose the actual horrors. But the use of fire, searchlights, and reflected beams illuminate to the right amount just to show us the things that are going to haunt our sleep. Now, I'm really impressed with the scale of everything. As we watch the assassin move about in the environment, at times it's dwarfed by other creatures. But when placed near a character that appears to be human, the assassin's like 2 feet taller, making the human look then tiny and insignificant. The ever-changing proportions of beings and then their landscapes help to keep the watching experience even more off-kilter than it already was. The imagery is disturbing, mostly resembling a post-apocalyptic world just has been ravaged by time, disease, and neglect. And there's nothing about any of this, though, that makes me want to spend time there, as every bit of it is horrifying in multiple ways. While a lot of this movie is messed up visually, there was one scene that stuck with me far after it was over. There's a sequence with a surgeon, and while the imagery is quite disgusting, it's the sound effects that actually made me queasy. There's the slurping and sucking noises of gore being disturbed, with the sound design capturing these horrors and then amplifying them to utterly disgust us. And when this is combined with the grotesque visuals, it's a memorable sequence that you don't want to watch while you're eating. Now, as creative as this is, I really found myself struggling to figure out what the message of the story was. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a message, but I was hard-pressed to understand the point of the narrative. Most of the time it came across that the visuals were the point, that telling a story wasn't really of consequence. Now, at one point, Ian Malcolm's quote popped into my head that the animators were just so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. And as I said, the visuals are striking and they're certainly unique. This is a massive labor of love, and Tippit and his team put in countless hours over years and years to create this spectacle. Their talent is apparent, but for something to occupy 83 minutes of my brain, it not only needs to be visually engaging, but also have a story that is compelling or resonates with me in some way. I was scratching my head during the majority of this, just trying to decipher what the storytellers were attempting to tell me. I wanted to know what they were trying to convey. But in the end, I walk away with horrific imagery that is filled with creativity and a story that might be talking about the cyclical nature of life or creation, that it's a violent process that's often dark and gruesome, but from that struggle, newness can emerge. Is that what this is really about? I literally have no idea. But based on the imagery and then the progression of the scenes, I could see this as a slight possibility. Now, this is something I'm probably expected to like, because Tippit is a legend and a genius, but liking and appreciating are two totally different things. I appreciate the dedication that went into this. I appreciate the creativity and the vision to execute such a complex visual undertaking. The scale, details, lighting, and even the gore are carefully crafted. But I didn't like this. I felt like I was enduring some strange art project that claimed to have meaning. Now, I wanted to like this because of all the things that I listed I appreciate about the project. But when it comes down to it, my watching experience, while intriguing, was not enjoyable. Does that make it bad? No, it's just something that's not for me. Maybe you will get a huge kick out of it. I do think it's worth checking out, even just in spurts, to see all the different creative aspects that are utilized. But on the whole, I'd rather spend 80-something minutes doing something else. There's weird sex, nudity, no profanity, and an absolute ton of gruesome violence. I give Mad God 2.5 out of 5 couches. What's a really creative movie that you've seen? Doesn't even have to be one that you like, but maybe something you appreciated because of the attempt. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.